All right, functions. This is a week overview of week 3. So we're week 3 out of the week 6 of the program. Monday, we're going to work on our lower body. So you guys remember this structure, or if you're new to this, the goal of this is to work on muscle activation and awareness, kind of knowing where certain muscle groups are and how to kind of get a pure contraction out of those muscles. Sometimes when we do like functional movements or really whole body movements, we don't get a real opportunity to feel what it's like to activate the muscles like the hamstrings, which we're going to focus on today. So we're going to focus on that, some joint mobility, and then actually integrating it into a more functional movement. So part A, 3 sets, 20 to 40 seconds of a hamstring contraction. Let's look at what we did last week and see if we can go a little longer. If you want to go into the higher range, go for it, or into the lower range. Maybe you're feeling cramps, and that's okay. It's just that you haven't woken up that muscle in a long time, or your brain's kind of figuring it out for the first time. So it's all good. As you do it a little more often, I've seen people improve from that. So take the time, whether it's discovering that muscle or it's about building some more resilience and conditioning in it by holding that isometric. So it's kind of like doing a plank for your hamstring. We're holding that contraction and trying to maintain it for that time. And then take 20 to 30 seconds in between sides to just kind of take a little bit of a rest. But we are increasing the volume of what we did last week with this by a little bit more. Part B, we're going to work on our joint mobility, and we're going to do hip circles from the back position, or so where the hip is in hip extension. When we're doing this, just make sure we're not tilting the pelvis as well. It's going to be very, very tempting to tilt the pelvis kind of anteriorly or posteriorly. So that's when we're kind of like sticking our butt out. I want you guys to keep the pelvis, or think of it like a bowl. You want to keep it as stable as you can. And then just with the hip joint, move it back. And there's going to be a hard kind of stopping range with that. That's your end range that I would maintain. And then try to do your circles in that end range. If you're not shaking or if it doesn't feel hard, you're probably not at the correct spot. So you should feel like it's hard to do those circles at that end range. Or you're just not there yet to actually feel it. So pelvic is nice and neutral, and then you're just moving that hip joint back as much as you can until you feel like, oh man, it's real hard to keep the pelvis still, and then push the leg back and then trying to do the circles there. Then you'll really feel that joint moving, and that's where we want to build some strength and control it. It's more about the mobility of it than it is about the flexibility of it. And that's what I want you guys to really hammer in with those hip circles today. So 3 to 5 reps per side. Again, 20, 30 seconds per side of rest and 3 sets total. Then we're going to go, before I go into that, if with the hip circles, if they're feeling easy and you want more of a progression, try them with a figure 8. So progress them a little bit higher. Or you guys can start to bend the knee and have a little bit of an extra movement in there. So with knee flexion, see how it feels to do the hip circle. Sometimes we kind of like, our brain doesn't even know how to move the hip when our knees bent. So that's another way to challenge it yourself if you find that it's pretty easy for yourself. Finally, weighted lunges, 3 sets of 5. Tough progression, build off of what you did last time, whether it's stationary, assisted, walking lunges. Let's build off of the last progression we did. And we're trying to put those pieces together. So our back position is going to be seen in that weighted lunge of the hip circle, and our hamstrings are obviously working while we do the lunges as well. So we get to kind of put it all together into something that's more multi-purpose. Finally, our workout. We're going to finish off with a quick AMRAP 12. We want to keep the intensity high with this one. 100-meter row, get off there, 5 med ball thrusters, 5 push-ups. We're going to go through this nice conditioning, gymnastics, weightlifting movement, or weightlifting triplet for 12 minutes. I want to see you guys kind of keep high intensity, move well though while you keep that intensity high. By those end of those 12 minutes, you should feel like you're like done. You've emptied it all. So good little workout to end off your Monday. And then going into our Wednesday's workout, we do upper body on this day. So kind of like the opposite of what we did on Monday, but more for the upper body. So we're going to activate the lats, 20 to 40 seconds, really trying to get a good contraction. We use the lats in a lot of pulling movements or when we're moving our shoulder blades. And then we're going to actually work on the shoulder blades. We're going to do cross body position. In this one, we're going to actually activate a little bit more of the chest since our arm is going to be across the body. So we're going to involve more of the pec major, pec minor in that motion. It's going to feel a little funky because we don't really do much stuff in that cross body position. So expect a little bit of like a weird sensation in the shoulder because we never really go there. But 3 to 5 reps per side, and then 3 sets total. And then finally, let's put it together into a bench press. So we're going to challenge that upper body push with more muscles working at once. So triceps are working, chest is working, lats are working while we're doing that. So good little triplet there. Lat activation into scapula circles, and then we're getting all prepared for that bench press. And then following that up, our workout is a good upper body push-pull workout. I wanted to kind of target more upper body today. We're going to challenge the capacity. With a barbell, we're going to be doing standing strict presses. So just keeping it only to the upper body, and then ring rows. So 27, 27, 21, 21, 15, 15, 9, 9. So be able to do like 3 to 4 sets for every round. So the 27, maybe you're breaking it up into 9s, or a couple sets of like 6 to 8 reps, somewhere around there. But we don't want to be doing like 2 or 3 at a time, nor do we want to do 27 in a row. So we want to feel like every set we do is challenging and it's within that kind of, I put 6 to 10 rep range before you need to stop and rest. So after that, going into the Thursday workout, let's build off of our balance positions and really build our stability. One good question that came up last week was why it's important, or like why does our body get tighter if our vision and our balance isn't there? Well, our brains are designed to get almost 50 to 80% of our sensory information. So it's always using like what we see and how we are standing against gravity through our inner ear to really stabilize us and predict kind of what our next movement is. So if there's anything off in that level or in that calibration, it leaks into how we move. And if we can't really stabilize as well, our body gets tighter as a result to stop us from moving dynamically or fast. So we'll see issues in the neck, we'll see issues in the hips, and the low back, and the spine, usually from visual and inner ear issues. Sometimes even like side to side, like maybe shoulders or even like hips and ankles. But this will be a big part in moving well. So if we have good inner ear function and good visual skills, our movement just upgrades a ton because we rely on those systems heavily to be able to move in the first place. So if you're not training the vision system, if you're not training the inner ear, you're leaving a lot on the table, and your body is kind of like compensating or trying to figure out different ways to get around it while we can just address it directly head on. So today we get to work on the inner ear. We're going to work on first finding our balance stance, and then going into some head positioning and balance. So kind of seeing how when we change our head position, how does that affect our balance? And then trying to accumulate a little bit more time than we have been in the last couple of weeks in those balance positions. And then we're going to also test it with the eye drills, and then finish off with a reset drill for the eyes. We've been doing the palming drill, so darkening the eyes, and then also doing some breathing with that to really down regulate that system, because it's a lot of eye intensive and inner ear intensive work. We want to kind of treat it like we just worked our muscles. We want to take a little bit of a cool down before we go into that next piece. So that's a focus on the first piece. And then our workout, real straightforward. EMOM 16 for reps. We got max cal bike, and then max distance single arm farmer's carry, 25-foot sections. We got midline stability and our grip strength as the intent of today. So we're going to be challenging our core, conditioning, I should say. And then that's going to add some fatigue, some breathing to that single arm farmer's carry, because that's going to challenge how we grip it. It's going to challenge our stability, breathing heavy and then trying to stay upright. And the cool thing about the single arm farmer's carry is that our body's actually doing 2 different things on either side. So if we're holding the dumbbell on one side, my right side is focused on extending, and then my left side is focused on flexing. So we got 2 different things going on compared to if we had 2 dumbbells, both sides of my body is just focusing on extending the whole time. So really good for any issues that we maybe have on one side of our body. This is a good exercise that can take a step forward in progressing it, or maybe even solve the issue. Again, everyone's a little different, but real cool benefits out of doing just a single side farmer's carry versus a dual arm farmer's carry. So fun stuff on Thursday. And then we're going to finish off the week with our Saturday workout. So we got our breathing skill work, diaphragm stretches, and then some air hunger drills, really focusing on opening up our diaphragm or creating at least some awareness of where that is. We're going to get some cool brain activations. So cerebellum and our midbrain are going to be really fired up after doing this kind of work today, which is going to help us a lot with our extensor and our flexor tone, which is basically all of what our muscles do, right? So we flex, they extend. The cerebellum gives us more extension through our body, and midbrain gives us more flexion through our body. So you could actually do some of these tests today, or do some of these drills and then test and reassess your ranges of motion and see how you feel. There'll be some that will give you a good result. Some of them might not give you anything. And then also you might discover that some things actually make you worse too, which is also really good information. So all of today, again, skill of breathing. And then we're going to go into our workout, 5 rounds at a steady pace, nasal breathing only, 2 minutes row or bike, 2 minutes med ball clean to shoulder, and then 2 minutes of skipping. So a little bit longer in duration instead of a minute. We're trying to keep a good steady pace that we can manage for 2 minutes. We're going to do 5 rounds total with no rest in between, unless just the transitions in between will be a rest, but you're trying to be consistent in a longer duration of time. So aerobic stimulus is the stimulus that we're trying to get after today's workout. Other than that, guys, hope you have fun with this week's, and we'll see you guys next week for the next set of workouts.